Discover your inner goddess and live up to your highest value and most abundant potential. Welcome to Grateful Goddesses, a podcast that empowers you to unleash your inner goddess and take the leap of faith to live your best life. Your guide, Karen Pulver, joins her fellow goddesses in soulful conversations about gratitude, personal growth, authentic living, and a bevy of topics affecting women today. Let's start the show with your host, Karen Pulver.
Welcome everyone to Grateful Goddesses, and thank you so much for joining us. You are in for a treat today. We are thrilled to be having our guest, Wendi Cohen. Wendi Cohen brings over a decade of experience to the field of meditation, mindfulness, and wellness. She has been a dynamic and instrumental force helping people from all over the world as a teacher and integrative lifestyle practitioner. Wendi is highly regarded for her years at the Chopra Center for Wellbeing, where she managed and facilitated their signature program, Perfect Health, working with Dr. Deepak Chopra and being involved with cutting-edge research in meditation and Ayurveda there. Wendi has been up close and personal with the brightest minds in the wellness industry. And what is so special about today is one of our featured goddesses, Michelle, had the privilege of working with Wendi. Michelle, can you join us today?
Hi, Karen.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much for coming. And we're really interested in knowing about your experience with Wendi. And I know that this might be quite vulnerable for you, but thank you for sharing because this will help so many people. So when I ask you about Wendi Cohen, what can you tell us?
So I love being vulnerable. I don't see it as a bad thing, first of all, because I think it's important to share exactly like you said. And boy, I could cry right now because Wendi has been an unbelievable force in my life. Every day I meditate thanks to Wendi, and I one of the things that I do, because there's a few prompts that she taught me, is say what I'm grateful for. Every single day I say Wendi. By the way, Karen, I say you too. But
oh, that's so nice.
I'm unbelievably grateful. She's just really helped me reshape my thoughts and teach me how to stand in my power and invite ease and grace into my life.
So if you were to describe Wendi in a couple words, how would you describe her?
A calm force, unbelievably knowledgeable in the field of spirituality and more.
And I know from talking to you as a friend that you really have made a shift because you came from a very dark place and difficult place, and you just seem so much lighter after working with Wendi. And I know when I speak to you, when you've had that talk with Wendi, I can definitely see a shift. Can you tell us a bit about that?
As I said, she helped me rethink my thoughts, but a lot of that is inviting positivity into my life. She's taught me a lot about what to bring into my life and what to ask for. And you know, I struggled with being specific and then getting what I asked for, but not really what I wanted. And she helped me think and talk about my feelings more in terms
really
of how I want to feel.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember when I came to visit you and we went to LA and we were in the same hotel room, and I woke up and I automatically went to my phone, looked on my email. Actually, I was watching a Netflix show. I put that on. I thought you were sleeping, but you actually were sitting over on the couch meditating. And then I was like, oh my gosh, how'd you do that? Because we were talking about meditation and you said Wendi taught you and you have your own mantra, and we had a really good conversation. I too meditate, but it's a little different. So I want to ask Wendi about that. So Wendi Cohen, can you join us today?
Hi ladies, so good to be here.
Hi.
Thank you so much. Lovely to be with you, Karen, and the rest of the goddesses. So good to see you, Michelle. I've already actually shed a few tears. Thank you for your sharing.
I know that Michelle has talked so highly about you and how you've helped her. And like I said, I've seen a shift. When Michelle and I were talking about meditation when we were in LA, I told her, yeah, I meditate too. I listen to different apps. I've done some different meditations. But honestly, it wasn't until I had a dream not too long ago. An old friend of ours who had passed away about 10 years ago was in my dream. And it was the oddest thing because I really didn't speak to him so much when he was around, but he was in my dream and he came up to me and he said, Karen, just be. And I didn't know what that meant. But when I was talking to Michelle that morning, it clicked. I was like, that's what it is. That's the key, I think, to meditating, to not think too much, right? What are your thoughts on my dream?
Well, no, I mean, I think it's very interesting. And I think a lot of people in the spiritual community will say, just be. I think a lot of people are not clear what that is. You know, we're human beings that are constantly doing, right? Doing. And when I think of just being, especially in terms of meditation, is just being with our thoughts or our feelings or creating enough space so that we can be more reflective. We can really be accepting of what is in that moment without any resistance. And so there is something very powerful when we let go of the need to constantly do what shows up. And in meditation, you're simply just with your thoughts, you're with your feelings, with whatever is happening in that moment. And the kind of meditation that I teach, we use a mantra, and that helps to redirect some of those thoughts. But the thoughts are part of the experience. The being is just accepting what is in that moment.
Sorry, Wendy, you also taught me that, I had thought, meditation, you sit on a pillow and you're like this and this and that. And I was struggling with it. And Wendy was like, do it any way you can. I actually meditate in bed most of the time. And that really freed me because I was really struggling.
I think too that for me, I was trying so hard, to get into that place. And I told Michelle it was when quarantine first started and there was so much going on that I actually did take a pillow that Michelle got me, a cushion, and I took it into my daughter's closet and I closed the door. I put on earbuds. I listened to Deepak and his calming voice. And I got into a zone because I just wasn't trying so hard. And I actually felt tingling all over, which I had never experienced. And I remember, Michelle, I called you and I said, my body had a full out orgasm, but it wasn't a real sexual orgasm. It was a body orgasm.
I thought you were referring to me.
Because I think I allowed myself to just be, which is really hard to do. But if it's not hard also, it's like a push and pull.
Well, that's the interesting thing is that meditation is actually counterintuitive. We've been brought up with the no pain, no gain, try harder, just do it, Nike, right? But really, if you just are willing to sit and be and tap into whatever stillness and silence you're able to during that time, there's so many benefits to that. Like you said, every cell in your body became alive. We become more connected to our bodies, which is where we have so much wisdom. We become more connected to our intuition, which is, again, can be an amazing North Star because so many of us are living in our minds and not accessing the part of us that has so many answers already. And so there's ease and grace in that just being and being with whatever is showing up. And the thing, I know we'll talk maybe a little bit later about some of the myths of meditation, but one of the things is it's not the magic that happens when you're sitting in meditation. It's really outside when you're noticing how you're showing up differently. You're less reactive, you're more creative, you're more reflective, you're more grounded. And we are living in a time where it's constant fight or flight. And so to take some time out to just be in practice or with some of the rituals that I often teach, there's so much benefit to that, especially in the world that we're living in right now.
Absolutely.
Can I add to that for a second? Wendy also taught me that, and this is true, I feel like this outside of meditation, it helped me connect my mind and my body. And I was never able to do it. And Wendy, what's your expression? The brain?
Right. The mind can trick us, but the body never lies. And oftentimes we are so much more connected to what's happening mentally than really the wisdom of our bodies.
Yeah, and now I can't live without that.
And that's where people can get sick, right? Because of stress and all of that. Well, I'd like to welcome our featured goddesses today. Hi, girls. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi.
Laura's going to start. She has a question for you.
Hi, Wendy. It's a pleasure to meet you. And I'm going to just ask you that question. Karen and I were discussing earlier about Deepak and his incredible aura and his larger than life Zen feeling that he emits to the world. And we're just curious, or I'm very curious to know how he goes about dealing with his negative emotions and how he communicates to the people around him when he's really not feeling so zen, which I'm sure happens. Would you be able to elaborate on that?
Yeah, well, I had the good fortune to learn from Deepak and then work for him for many, many years in different capacities. And what I will say, what my takeaway always from that experience is just how passionate he is about helping people find better ways to live their lives, if it's through meditation, through science, through all the things that he has his hands in. And because he is so curious and because he is somebody who has the bandwidth to hold so many different creative thoughts at one time, he's very present. And I will say that one of the things I loved most about working with him that was unexpected for me was this sense of almost like a childlike wonder. He was curious about so many things, and I think because he was so present and so available to access whatever was happening in that moment, I didn't really ever have the experience of him being anything but grounded, creative, present. He's actually really funny. I don't think many people know his sense of humor. He loves emojis. Oftentimes in our communication, I would get a dancing banana, and I just got what that meant. So he has a sense of humor, and one of the things I love about that in this work is transformational work is deep and it can be heavy for some people. And there's a lightness to how Deepak teaches. There's a lightness in how he approaches. He's a beautiful family man. He adores his wife, Rita, who's absolutely lovely. His children and his grandchildren are just everything to him. And I don't think a lot of people would expect that because he's very busy and he has doing so many amazing things. But I loved being able to be connected to somebody that is just so beyond brilliant and so incredible in how his mind works.
It's amazing to hear how Deepak is able to have that light side to him and allow that playfulness to be part of his serious, reflecting side. And I'm sure that's just I can see from following him on Instagram and from following some of his videos and reading his words that it's a gift to have that type of demeanor. And I think that we can all really learn from that and just use humor and lightness in part of the process of learning. So thank you. That was really enlightening.
You're welcome. I think in general, when I first came to transformational work for my own personal healing, I thought it needed to be really serious. And in fact, one of my greatest teachers said, Wendi, you're taking all this way too serious. And at first, I wasn't really happy to receive that. I thought, well, wait, this is big stuff. But I kind of have learned over the years and in my own personal journey with all of this that when we can have a sense of humor and we can come to something in a lighter way, it makes the work so much more enjoyable. And I am not someone that believes that suffering is required when we're looking at things that are difficult.
Michelle?
That's amazing.
So, Wendi.
Yes.
Other than me, of course, your favorite client. I know you work a lot with people going through transitions. And do you want to walk us through what that might look like? I mean, obviously I have some ideas, or firsthand knowledge, but I would love to. I know everybody would love to hear from you.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting. I've had the amazing fortune to work with people all over the country, at one point all over the world. Because we have technology like Zoom, and I've worked with people with a wide range. I think my youngest client has been 23 and my oldest client is 78. And so I'm working with people that have all sorts of different things that they're wanting to look at in their lives. And yes, a lot of people are in transition. I have helped people that are looking to retire and move into a new phase of their life after owning businesses. I've helped people transition from having a very busy life as moms or husbands and people that no longer have children at home. I've worked with people that are changing their relationships. Maybe they're moving into becoming single, or they're working on relationships with family members. And I would say the common thread, because I want to be thoughtful of their privacy in this intimate work, but I would say that the common thread is how I'm always so moved by people, and you are one of them, Michelle, that are willing to look at the things that are difficult, or the wounds that have maybe prevented them from moving forward in their lives, or looking at how to create a new normal or move into something that's uncomfortable. And so it's always amazing to me to see so much transformation in the work that I do with people, because people, they're wanting change and they want more meaning and more alignment. And so we put some things into place to support that vision. And I'm someone that believes, again, to feed off of what I said earlier, that there should be ease and grace in this process. And when we get clear on what we really want, by knowing who we really are, then we can put some things into practice that are really doable and really are able to bring great change and healing.
And that's certainly what you've done for me. And I don't know, Karen knows me well. When I'm about to cry, my nose turns red. So perhaps you can see that, because, I mean, we've talked about it, but from where I was a year and a half ago at the beginning of my separation from a very long marriage to now, I feel that power. I know who I am. And one of the ways I got there, well, the biggest way I got there was with you and my dear friends, obviously, who held me when I couldn't hold myself. But you were always willing to meet me where I was. Mm-hmm. And you have this ability to just go with it, but also bring me back to the lesson and what I can learn. And it also, you're right. I mean, it's been infused with humor for sure. Mm-hmm. And it's been a beautiful journey.
Thank you. I'm very honored to get to do this work, and with people like you, Michelle, that again are vulnerable. I believe, like Brene Brown says, we find power in our vulnerability. And I think, again, as women, we should be supporting one another in whatever ways we can. And I enjoy the partnership of the work. Again, I'm just there to hold the space and hold the vision and offer some reflection and accountability. But really, it's you and my other clients that are actually really doing the work. And it's quite impressive and very inspirational for me.
Rachel, you have a question for Wendi.
Hi, Wendi. Thank you so much for being here. I'm curious about your journey. Like, what brought you to this place, and like, where did you start, and how did you evolve? And was there a defining moment that really turned it for you?
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. It's interesting. You know, a lot of people that are in this kind of work, I don't think when we're little, we say, oh, when I grow up, I want to work at the Chopra Center, or I want to do these things. It's usually something that leads us there. And I will be vulnerable now too and share a little bit about what brought me to meditation, because I think it's important. Although my story might not be like everyone else's, there will be parts of it that I think people will recognize, hopefully. And so I went to the Chopra Center in 2005, and I should probably back up with what brought me to the Chopra Center, because I didn't really know I was going there for all of this that would come after. In 2003, I'm going to take a deep breath because this is also not easy for me to talk about. I was diagnosed with a really rare and very serious disease. It's so interesting because I am not somebody at this point that believes that I am my story entirely. So to go back and talk about it feels a little uncomfortable in my body. It's so interesting. But in 2003, I was diagnosed with this disease, and I went from being a marathon runner, martial artist, very busy mom to 2 young kids. I was even the PTA president, which I would never do ever again. Hardest job ever.
I did that too.
I'm so sorry. I always say to my fellow PTA presidents that we could do anything after you've done that, right? Yeah. And so I went from that to having a lot of pain in my body, a lot of difficulty with my brain. I was in and out of doctor's offices. No one could quite figure out what was going on with me until finally in 2003 I was diagnosed. And I was having to really navigate a new normal because I was somebody that was always so happy and so positive and so athletic and active, and I did not know quite what to do. And there was a period of time where I really felt that I kind of lost who I was in all of this. And there was even a point that I lost the will to accessorize, and you know what that's like. That's not good, right? Okay. So fast forward to 2005, it was the summer of August. Every year, my family, we go to the island of Catalina. It's like a family tradition. This is one of the first years because of COVID, we haven't been able to go. But my doctor said, I'm sorry, Wendi, you can't go because they don't have a medical facility there in case something went wrong with you. Because I was, over those several years, I was in and out of hospitals, I was doing treatments, I was not in a good, stable way health-wise. So my family went off to Catalina and I was feeling really sorry for myself. Have you guys ever had those pity parties? Like this
Absolutely.
And I decided to take myself to La Costa because I thought, let me go away for one day. It was close to where I live. And I was wandering the property feeling sorry for myself. And I stumbled into the Chopra Center, which lived on the property at the time. And I wandered in, there was a free group meditation going on. And this lovely man, his name is David G. He was leading the meditation. We connected right away. Every cell in my body knew I was supposed to be there. It felt familiar. I sat down to meditate and just thought, wow, there's a reason I'm meant to be here. I struggled during the whole entire practice because I kept thinking and thought I was doing it wrong. And I left there and I just had this sense because he said to me, you should come back and you should get your mantra. And so I just said, okay, great. And so I went back 2 weeks later because I'm not all that patient and could get there as soon as I could and got my mantra. And that's what really started me on my path. And what I found is from my practice, especially at that time, because unfortunately my health declined even further after that, was that the meditation for me was a way to be with my thoughts and be with my fears and my feelings that I was really not paying attention to. And it allowed me to become so much more creative in my life and more reflective. And through a series of events, we don't need to get into all of them today, but I ended up realizing that I needed to make some big changes and I needed to move from being so fear-based and so reactive, because your health is scary, and to how can I go about this differently? And so I made some radical changes after many, many visits to the Chopra Center and programs, and I was able to finally get to a place where I was really clear, and that kind of guided me towards different medical decisions, and I could go on and on, but really that's how I came to meditation. And for me, it's been one of the biggest gifts of my life.
Thank you for sharing that. I know that personally too, that I had to make some major shifts after my diagnosis and realizing 10 years ago of cancer, and realizing that a lot of these things can really affect you physically. And sometimes even just figuring out a way to surround yourself with more positive people and push, not cut out people, but kind of put them in the back row of your orchestra. That's how I always see it, like your front row, your back row, and the lobby and the street.
Yeah, no, and I think there's actually something to that. That again, when we start to honor ourselves differently and knowing what is good for us and what isn't, it's okay to make some changes. And I upset a lot of people with a lot of the changes that I made because I realized that I was very prone to receiving that negativity or the doubt, and I wanted everyone to be rooting for me. I didn't want really anyone to be kind of questioning these choices that I was making, because I was starting to really understand that those were intuitive choices. Those were the best choices for me. And so, Karen, I understand that you have the people in your front row that, again, like, and I think this is probably your front row, and what a beautiful front row it is. And it's okay, because again, everyone is on their journey. And for me, because my health was so fragile, it became a priority for me. And I was unapologetic about it for the first time ever in my life, because I'm sure, like many of you, you're people pleasers, or I'm a recovering perfectionist. I wanted everything to be perfect and everyone to be happy. And it doesn't always work like that. And it's okay.
Okay. Alyssa, you have some questions as well.
It's so amazing to hear how you were able to use your practice as a way to heal you spiritually and certainly physically, and it's just been so great to hear about that. And I'm wondering about, we alluded to earlier, these myths of meditation, what it is and what it's not. And for those of our listeners and viewers who don't have a regular meditation practice, I'm just wondering if you can dispel some of those common myths. It sounds already from today's show that you can do it anywhere, in bed or on a great comfy pillow, and that there's no wrong way to do it. But anything else you can talk about in terms of myths?
Yeah, thank you, Alyssa. This is such a good and important question, because I think, especially now that more and more people are learning about meditation, that the stigma that it's woo-woo, or that it's something that is religious in any way, or something that a lot of people don't understand, I think it's good to right up front say, okay, this is what it is and this is what it isn't. And I think for me, it was this idea that you can't do it wrong. That really the only thing that I would say you would do wrong is by not doing it. You're going to have thoughts in a practice. We have 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts per day. And think about that. We can't expect that when we sit down to meditate that all those stop. We want those thoughts, because those thoughts mean we're alive. No thoughts, flatline, not good. So that was the first thing. Like, you're going to have thoughts when you meditate, and it's okay. The other thing is that people think, well, if I meditate, I'll be enlightened. You're already enlightened. We just use the practice of meditation to remind ourselves again who we are and the essence of who we are. And so that's another one. And again, comfort is important. When I first learned to meditate, I would never have been comfortable sitting in lotus position with my hands in mudras and my spine upright. At the time, I was having difficulty walking. So for me, sitting upright with a cozy pillow behind me in bed was the perfect way. And so getting rid of all the things that become obstacles for meditation practice is just not necessary. And again, I said this earlier, that the meditation, it's not when you're sitting in the practice where the magic happens. It's really outside. So if people realize that, well, wait, I'm not going to levitate, I'm not going to find all the answers that I'm looking for in the 20 minutes or 30 minutes that I'm sitting in the morning, then you're going to probably be disappointed. And so it's really like, well, wait, how am I showing up in my life? And how do I feel physically? How do I feel, emotionally? That's really where you find the benefit for it.
And can you meditate in motion? I mean, for me, I find taking a very long walk by myself, sometimes with music, sometimes not. Here in Chicago on the lakefront, I find that's the time that I'm really able to sort of tap into some really, deep thinking.
Yeah, and again, what's so interesting about your comment about that is, really whenever we're in a reflective place where we're just with ourselves, and for you, it's walking on the lakefront. I totally get that. When I was a runner, I didn't really equate it to being a moving meditation, but that's really where I worked out all sorts of stuff. And so again, I don't think that we have to put in this idea that it only looks a certain way. I think anytime you get some kind of benefit from, again, being with yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, whatever's happening, and you stop from the thinking and the doing, then it's wonderful. So, and I know that someone was going to mention something about dance meditation. I think movement is an absolute form of meditative, mindful practice. Absolutely.
Everything that you're saying about kind of being present with your thoughts, I actually think that's one of my strengths in life. I'm incredibly present, which makes me a horrible texter and a horrible emailer. And if I'm your emergency contact, I'm probably not the best person. But it's funny because I'm taking a spirituality for 3 years. I've been studying spirituality. I studied the Gita for a year. I mean, I am in this place, and everything that you're saying really resonates. And I struggle with any sort of sitting meditation. And it's funny, I did do Deepak Chopra's, my sister had me do it, where you get a group of people together and you listen to him every morning, and then you write down, you have different exercises. So I did it then. And then when that ended, I have stopped like this quiet practice, but I dance all the time. And I listen to music. I listen to music before I call a friend. And I feel that in that space, I'm dancing anywhere in my house at any moment. Like, does that count? Do I get credit for that?
Well, I don't know. The meditation police would need to weigh in there. I think that if you are connecting to yourself in your own unique way, I would check that as yes. What I would say, though, I would encourage you to look at maybe sitting in the discomfort of the silence also, that maybe there's something there for you. And again, there's no right or wrong. I do believe that when we get still enough and silent enough, we move past the mind and the intellect and the ego into a space where we can connect to ourselves even deeper. And so perhaps you're able to achieve that through your form of your dance and your practices. Who am I to say whether or not that's right or not? I think if you're feeling connected to you, good for you. I think there's too much spiritual elitism out there at times that I just don't buy into. I don't think that there is, that's counterproductive. We want people to be able to find the space for themselves to connect. And so if we put parameters or we judge it or have expectations, that doesn't really help in any way. So I would challenge you just to see what it would be like, because I'd be curious for you. But if that seems to be helping you, awesome.
You know, I was also going to add, like when I take a shower, it's that is really, I actually feel like my spirit guides are in the shower with me and come to me, because that is where, like, talk about like creative juice and like, so, and again, I'm still moving a little bit, but it's really, I'll sit on the bench, I have a steam shower, and I just kind of absorb the heat. And I do feel like that's when I fly.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And water resets energy too. So anytime we're in water, it's going to reset your energy. So it would make sense that you might experience that in the shower.
Wow, that's probably why I like swimming so much. I didn't know that. I love to go swimming.
Yeah, anytime there's a lot of energy, or you're feeling like you need to move some energy, the best way to do it, such an easy thing to do, is get into water. Some people will take a bath. Some people will shower. Some people will get in the pool, or the ocean is also incredible. But yeah, that's super helpful.
That's good to know. Thank you. Alyssa.
That is good to know. I always say I do my best thinking in the shower. I wanted to get back to your work at the Chopra Center and talk about the 7 spiritual laws for success. Can you talk about that a little bit? How we sort of incorporate them into our lives? Do you sort of think about them as a whole, or, you know, spend a day on each one? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, I love the 7 spiritual laws. It's funny. They have always been part of my daily practice since I started meditating. And so this is Deepak's book that I think is one of his best. And it's based on really profound principles that are quite easy to incorporate daily. And so there is a law for each day. So today is Saturday. I had to think about that for a second, right? With COVID, it's like, what day is it? Today's Saturday. Today is the law of Dharma. Dharma is a Sanskrit word for purpose. And so what I do is I have my meditation practice, and then I bring in the law of the day, and then I think about how I'm going to apply it for that day. So today being the law of Dharma, I'm thinking, okay, how can I share my unique gifts with the goddesses? How can I share that with my family later on today? How can I stay connected to who I am? And so what I do, and this is what I think would be wonderful for anyone listening, is to take the law that day, and then you see how you can apply it. So my favorite laws, of course, there's 7. The ones that have been the most impactful for me are the law of intention and desire, which is on Thursday. For me, I got really clear on what my intentions are on a daily basis, but particularly on Thursdays. I really think about, what is it that I really, really want? How can I put some energy or attention there? And that's Thursday's law. Then followed by Friday, which has been probably the most challenging law for me personally, is the law of detachment. So you still hold the things you want to happen, but you don't have that grip, that rigid hold on it. And so detachment frees up all sorts of things. When I'm an empty nester, and when both my kids were no longer at home, although I'm very fortunate that I have a career I love and I'm in a loving relationship, it was a big adjustment, and that letting go was so hard for me. And so that in place helps me, every Friday to let go of even the week, or to let go of thoughts, or to see how I can kind of not be attached to anything and to embrace uncertainty. So those 2 laws are great. I can share more about them, but I think the easiest way for people is to, the book is very easy. The chapters are very short. And then at the end of each section are 3 ways to apply the law. And so I like it at the end of my practice in the mornings, because I want to stay connected to them, because I really do believe that they ultimately remind you of what you want and how to bring them into your life.
That was one of our sessions, Wendi, right? We were many, actually. We talked about the 7 laws and how to
Yeah. They're very powerful. And again, I like them because you don't have to work so hard at them. Once you get connected to them, you kind of have them in your awareness to kind of check in and go, okay, yeah, maybe I'm holding on too tight here and I need to let go a little bit, or maybe I'm not expressing my unique gifts the way I need to, on Saturdays. So I love them, and I typically incorporate them into client work, and because I personally have benefited so much from them.
Yeah. I'm an empty nester too, and I saw he followed up his book with the 7 spiritual laws for parents, guiding your children to success. And some of these were so great that I think even for those of us who have read his book about the laws for success, these are great, like telling your kids everything is possible, and if you want to get something, give something, and go with the flow. And these are things that we sort of like to think we've been telling our kids all along, but when it's put in such a neat, little format like that, I think it's really
amazing. And it's interesting. I created a curriculum for a mindful parenting course, and I taught young moms. I had a couple dads, mostly moms, and we incorporated the 7 spiritual laws into part of a family practice. Because if you can imagine, if you're learning these things early on in your life, it becomes ingrained and becomes embodied, and then we don't have to work so hard at it as we get older.
Yeah, it does seem like we're just now starting to try to incorporate mindfulness into parts of our curriculum for kids. And it's just with this mindful classroom movement and with other things. I mean, it's really finally starting to work its way down to sort of as early as, early childhood learning.
Yeah, wonderful.
Before we go to Lara, I have to ask then about, I guess it would be Tuesday's law of karma.
Okay.
Right? Does it go in that order? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday for each one? So just to tell our listeners and viewers, so Sundays would be law of pure potentiality. Monday, the law of giving. Tuesday, the law of karma or cause and effect. Wednesday, the law of least effort. Thursday, the law of intention and desire. Friday, the law of detachment. And Saturday, the law of dharma or purpose in life. But Tuesday's law of karma, I struggle with, because I just feel like there's so much going on in the world and all this negativity. Is that karma? I just, if you can touch on, I know we didn't discuss this before, but
no, that's
karma is a hard one.
Yeah, and I think, again, there's a lot of ideas around the word karma. We've all heard the expression karma's a bitch, or what goes around comes around. And I think of karma differently than that. The translation of karma is really action. And so I think about, okay, what are the choices that I'm making, especially on Tuesdays, that I am aware, what are the consequences of the choice that I'm making? Is this going to bring myself and others happiness, or is this not going to do it? And taking responsibility that I get to choose. The choices are mine. And so I look at it that way differently. And also part of that law that day is about acceptance, accepting that what is. So again, I think if you think of it, karma, a little bit differently, maybe you might shift in how you're feeling that.
More of a silver lining for something of why something has happened. Rachel?
I just wanted to add that my husband always says that he's filling his karma jar, like whenever he does something. So like karma is actually always a positive thing in our house, like that we're just like doing good things to help fill that karma up. So it's funny how everyone's...
I love the karma jar. I love that. By the way, I have a gratitude jar that Michelle gave me. Gratitude jar. It's got some money in there too. Okay, we're going to hold on.
Well, I'm just going to start by saying it just in relation to what you're saying about karma. One of my favorite quotes is, "Choice, not chance, determines one's destiny." Mm-hmm. And I guess that is hand in hand with what you're saying, in that you have to really see that karma isn't just this magical thing that's necessarily going to come into your life, that your choices can lead you in that direction, which I think is very inspiring. And I love the karma jar idea. So I was just going to ask you your opinion on all the apps that are floating around, and what are your thoughts about people being introduced to meditating with Calm and Headspace? How do you feel about those?
Well, I'll be honest, I recommend them to people that are wanting some access to a practice. I don't personally use them, but I also think that any way that we can introduce it to a younger person that's more tech savvy and wants that, or somebody who is looking for a little bit more guidance, I think it's great. I don't have any prejudice against it. I teach a different method, and that's okay. I think the more people have tools available to them, and if it is in an app, I tend to prefer Insight Timer as an app.
Yes.
You guys know about Insight Timer?
Yeah.
No.
It's a wonderful...
Yes, it's excellent.
And it's a place where, again, you have a variety of teachers. You have people that are really available to guide you through. You can really curate your experience. And it also is a little bit of a cheerleader for you. So it has the capability to let you know how many consecutive days you've been meditating. At times, you can know who you're meditating with, the number of people all over the world, if you're into that. I think Insight Timer is done very well, so that if I was to recommend or suggest an app, that would be the one that I would lean towards.
I think that I actually remember looking at that one, and it seems to be a little more personalized with, it seems like your approach would be the ideal way to go, because it seems more of a coaching experience, and getting the feedback from someone like you would just be ideal. But I actually remember that's more of an interactive app as a starting point. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Does your center have an app?
No, I at the Chopra Center does.
Yes. Okay.
They just came out with an app, and I'm not too knowledgeable about it because it's not something that I personally use, but I would think that anything that the Chopra Center is doing would be of great value with all the resources available. But again, there are so many good resources out there. Even on YouTube, you could find, again, some great guided meditations. So I am in favor of as much exposure as possible so that more people can experience it.
We had a guest on the show, Tiffany Siebert, here in Chicago, that did Kundalini breath work with people in corrosive work environments, especially police officers. And I feel like that is a great first step, at least for, people to just learn how to breathe and how important it is to activate the brain into a calm state. So along the lines of what Laura asked, how can we develop these programs? Like, what do you think we can do as a society, like for our mental health programs?
Well, it's a great question, and I think more and more people are looking at ways to help people manage with the increase of mental illness and addiction and all that we are now faced with COVID, and really such a different way of living and so much more fear present for so many people. I wish I had a great answer to this question. What I always teach is it starts at home. So again, if you can start in your own families and in your own communities and see what you can do there, because oftentimes there's something about that I know for me, my kids, they were exposed to meditation. Do they do it every day? No, but they know that they have something that they can do, and they've talked to their friends about it. And so again, I would take a more grassroots approach, because again, I think that there are so many more brilliant people in the world that would figure out how to create these programs. But I know that it starts with us and it starts at home. And I think that's a very viable place to start.
So to give us an example, we did talk about some of the things that you do. You told me about simple breath, body scan, soul questions, and you did talk about law of the day. Could you pick one of those? Just what does your intuition tell us about this group of goddesses today that maybe we could try as a little sampling?
Yeah, so what I was actually thinking is we could take a moment to connect to gratitude, and then I could introduce some intentions for you that, again, is an example of how a 2-minute practice could connect you in a deeper way without having to do too much work. So if that sounds okay, then I can guide you guys in that.
It's such a treat. We're so excited. So if our viewers and listeners, should they stop what they're doing and sit down, if you can just set the stage?
Yeah, that would be great. So wherever you are, just make an adjustment so that you can be comfortable. And when you are comfortable, then I'd love for you to just gently close your eyes. And just start to connect to your breath. So just noticing every inhale and every exhale. And when the mind drifts away, because I'm sure it already has, just bring your attention back to following your breath. And now what I want you to do is connect to your heart space. And I want you to invite in something that you feel very grateful for. What are the blessings in your life in this moment that you feel gratitude towards? Just start to notice how the body feels by inviting this in. And then I'd like to just introduce some intentions. So as I say them, you'll just repeat them silently. And these intentions are for an enlightened mind, body, and heart. So setting the intention for a joyful and energetic body, a joyful, energetic body. Setting the intention for a loving and compassionate heart, a loving and compassionate heart. And the intention of a reflective, alert, and creative mind. A reflective, alert, and creative mind. And the intention of a lightness of being. A lightness of being. Again, just notice what's coming up in the form of thoughts or sensations or feelings in your body, with a sense of kindness and curiosity. And you'll just take another nice deep breath in through your nose, and then exhale out through your mouth. And when it feels comfortable, you'll just let your eyes float back open.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone like to share? We always, when we do different guided meditations, some of us, Rachel?
Okay, I have this intense feeling that I have glasses on my face. And I've had this feeling periodically, like when I get in a relaxed state. And I just had this vision that it's like my lens to the world, and that I need to open up my lens and open up my eyes. But it is such a strong physical sensation that I have glasses on that I almost want to touch my face. And I don't wear glasses unless I need reading glasses. It's very, do you have any thoughts or insights about that yourself?
I think that I would trust that again, whatever's showing up figuratively or literally, that you be guided by that. And I think there is something when we connect to gratitude that we see the world a little bit differently. That's why, again, people ask, well, with so much going on in the world, is there something that you could offer to people? And I say, go back to gratitude, because it shifts things for us every single time. And so perhaps maybe you're seeing the world with a new lens because you've connected to something that, again, you feel grateful for. I wouldn't be surprised by that.
Anyone else?
Just makes my heart feel so full to think about gratitude and to go through that, and to just feel so strong. It's just a lovely pause and reminder of what I've got and who I am, Yeah,
For me, I felt weights, maybe because I've been lifting weights, but when you do the exercise where you put the weights on your shoulders and you squat. So throughout that, I felt like the weights were sitting there, but I think I need to just let them fall. That's what I realized. Like, I can lift it, but I really have to let it go, I guess.
Maybe. And also oftentimes we feel like we carry the weight of the world, on our shoulders here. So if that's something that maybe you're feeling in your life, to gently let that go a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anyone else have any other questions or comments before we end?
I just want to say that I just felt a tremendous amount of emotion, because I had started to practice some meditation prior to the whole world going mad in March, before the whole pandemic. And you would think at the time when everything started and my family was all of a sudden back at home, I would still take that time to meditate and continue that practice. And I was journaling trying to find that time for myself. And I really have put it on hold. And I just had that feeling of this moment is so important, just as a reminder that of how much calm it was bringing to my life and peace. So I'm really grateful for being here today, just to kickstart me back into that mode. And especially in this time of anxiety and having to balance that sort of on a daily basis when my kids are coming down with colds and I'm having the distance between two of my kids being away at university and having had them in the house with me for so long. This is just a reminder that I'm going back to the meditation. And so thank you. That was really beautiful.
You're welcome. And I think, again, right now, self-care is non-negotiable. I think that we have to be looking after ourselves. And again, I know that we've had such interruptions to the patterns and the way we normally live, but that's even more the reason to be looking after ourselves. And I think, again, meditation or mindful practices or doing some of things that feel nurturing and grounding for us are just so important right now.
And Laura, it looks like where you are right now, you can just go out the door and jump in the lake to shift your energy.
It's a little cold. I wish I could, but maybe I should anyway.
Absolutely. So Wendi, if our viewers and listeners would like to get a hold of you, how can they reach you?
That's a great question. I have always been very private in my work, so I haven't really, I don't have a website. It's actually under construction right now. I have a lot of resistance to that. I don't know. It's probably part of my work. But I can be reached via email. I'm happy for you to share my email. And also I'm on LinkedIn. However,
can you share your email with us?
Sure. It's Wendi, Wendij, Cohen, Cohen, @gmail.com.
And you were starting to say another way. LinkedIn?
LinkedIn as well. You can find me on LinkedIn. But again, I am happy to receive whatever questions, or if I could be of any help to anybody, it'd be my pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining us on Grateful Goddesses today and helping us to feel grounded, to just be, and to just feel in our bodies today. And Michelle, thank you for connecting us all to Wendi and her amazing skills and just her authenticity. Thank you so much today, everybody.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be with you all, and be well.
Up next, favorite things. Opening up to happiness and joy.
Welcome everyone to Favorite Things portion of Grateful Goddesses. It's our adult show and tell. And we're going to start with Michelle.
So I didn't know we were doing favorite things, but I'm in my office right now and I looked beside me and something that I have up to see every day. Wendi, you'll recognize it. It's a card from Wendi that I got maybe a couple months ago. And it just really spoke to me. And this is what it says. It says, "There came a time when the risk to remain tight in the bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom." And then it says, "Never doubt that you have the strength and courage to grow into who you really are." And I lived a long time in fear, and I don't anymore. And I am blossoming. And it just really, I feel like you just completely captured my feelings and my experience. And so it is definitely one of my favorite things.
That's a beautiful testimonial to Wendi and her help for you. Thank you for sharing that. Lara?
Okay. This is my new gua sha. It's a rose quartz heart-shaped stone. And it's used to firm up skin. It feels really beautiful, and I'm using it on my face on a daily basis. I keep it in the fridge, so when it's cold, it feels amazing, and it's a massage feeling on the face. But it also has meaning, which I didn't realize when I looked it up. And the rose quartz stone in Chinese ancient medicine represents love, self-reflection, and acceptance. So it has a spiritual meaning to it, as well as being very therapeutic for the skin. And my daughter ordered it for me and introduced it to me. And for me, that's special because she's an adult now and she's sharing her tips with me on life and things that make her happy. So
what does gua sha mean?
That I don't know. Maybe Wendi knows that. Do you know what it means?
I don't know what it means, but I know that any kind of self-care that involves touch and the skin is super nourishing. And so again, I think gua sha is more of a technique than what it is. That's what I think. I'm not 100% sure though.
Well, along those lines, I brought along a favorite thing. It's Elizabeth Arden 8-Hour Cream. And this cream is so old. I think it's 50, 60 years old, to be honest with you. Not this exact container. But the reason why I love it so much is because my grandmother, who's passed away when I was 18, she smelled so good and her skin was so soft, and she would put it on morning and night. And I came across it. It kind of was one of those coincidences when I was on Amazon, or maybe it was Instagram. It popped up and it was a reminder of her and what she used to use. And I couldn't believe it was still in production, and I ordered it. And it does have a very distinct smell. I can't describe it, but it's her. And I love to use it. And it's for burns and for just soft skin. So that's one of my favorite things, which I guess is a self-care, right? And it has spiritual meaning to me as well. And maybe she was sending me a message that day. I don't know. I do believe in that too, though. Alyssa?
So I saw in the news the other day that we are all walking around with dirty masks. Like nobody really knows, how much bacteria really lives on these masks that we're wearing during the day. And the whole idea of it really kind of grossed me out. So I went out and I bought a whole lot of new masks. And these are from Athleta. And I bought a 5-pack of them. They're super soft and have this nice soft cotton on the inside, so it's not like abrasive on your skin. But now my new plan is to go through like 2 or 3 a day before they can get gross sitting in your purse with a million other things, or in your car in the center console area. But I'm just gonna keep buying more so that I can keep washing them frequently and keeping my skin as bacteria free as we can. Karen,
they must take away from the acne, right? Because I have the mask knee going on.
We were talking about that the other day, that we're certainly feeling too old to be getting acne on our faces, but this seems to be mask knee seems to be sweeping the world right now. So Athleta masks, 5 in a pack, and I think they're like $30, and so far really soft.
I'm gonna run out right after this. I need
beautiful fall colors.
Yeah, they are.
I know, that's kind of fun.
I love that. Rachel?
Okay, I'm super into rose gold, and I would call this self-care, and it's not a vibrator. I know it kind of looks like one, but it's not. It's actually this torch flame. And so it's great. You can turn it upside down. It's great for lighting candles. I just smudged my house. So the sage, I use this to burn the sage, and you can use it for whatever else you want to set on fire. But
Wendi.
Okay, well, originally I was going to go with the object behind me, which is this beautiful deity that I was gifted from some guests. But really what I'm going to share is one of my favorite things is connecting to women and to having conversations that are meaningful and that create dialogue that, again, get us thinking or shifting. And so really, this is one of my favorite things to do, is to be with women that are thoughtful and caring and curious and kind and heart-centered. So that's what my favorite thing would be right now.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And it's our hope that this podcast will create awareness and inspiration to people to really get inside and to be still and to just really take on whatever it is, like even to challenge themselves, like you expressed to Rachel earlier, about trying out new things and exploring, and especially during these times to definitely go within and see how you can help the community outwards as well. So thank you so much, Wendi, for joining us on Grateful Goddesses.
Unleashed your inner goddess yet? Thanks for joining us today on Grateful Goddesses. We invite you to visit our website, www.gratefulgoddesses.com, to access today's show notes as well as other helpful resources. Don't forget to leave a review. Until next time, stay strong and empowered to be a grateful goddess.